Tom Downey here for Bengals Breakdown. You will see and hear from Stone Shields later on in today's show. But it is July. If you are excited about Bengals training camp finally almost being here and some version of real football almost being back, then flood the comment section by typing me in today's show. Coming up on this edition of Bengals Breakdown, one perfect move to fill out the roster according to Clutch Points, but is it actually perfect? Potential help from a rival coming between Fansided, Bleacher Report, kind of tag teaming that one, and a potentially sneaky offensive Rookie of the Year candidate for Cincinnati. First, the perfect move idea from Clutch Points. They suggested the Bengals go out and sign Yannick Ngakoue, one of the probably better pass rushers available on the open market. Here's the pitch from Clutch Points. Ngakoue could easily create a three-man rotation with Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. This would keep all three players fresh throughout the games and guarantee a high baseline of play at defensive end. The depth behind Hubbard and Hendrickson is another reason to consider adding Ngakoue. Myles Murphy, Joseph Ossai, and Cam Sample are the Bengals' best options behind the starters, which I think is true in terms of the three guys out there. We'll get to Ngakoue and the pros and cons I think he does and, maybe doesn't offer overall. But should the Bengals look to sign him? We'll make this the pinned comment on today's video. So take advantage, head down there and go vote. Y for yes, N for no. Look, I'm always open to adding talent. I think that can benefit you in a significant way. Is pass rusher really a need, though? You mentioned, or Clutch Points, I should say, mentioned the three names. Cam Sample did fine. You missed some injuries with Hubbard and stuff there. In particular, I want to play Myles Murphy more, not less. You spent a first-round pick on Murphy. He showed some good things down the stretch last year. I don't think you can just ignore him and be like, oh, yeah, he's bad. It's a first-round pick. What do you mean that's not a good depth option? Literally a first-round pick. By the way, Ngakoue is not the same guy he was in his prime. And I actually very much disagree when it's like, oh, you can create a three-man rotation, guarantee a high baseline of play. He's not a good run stopper. You would be using Ngakoue as a situational pass rusher. That is what he is at this time. If you think you need that, okay, different conversation. If you're signing Ngakoue to be the third man in a constant rotation with Hubbard and Hendrickson, I think you're misjudging what Ngakoue is at this point in his NFL career, what he's good at, and your own depth. So, look, if you want to sign a vet one-year deal, sure, he can take the Joseph Ossai role if you're out on him. Playing over Myles Murphy, getting a high-end rotation play against the run, I don't think is a realistic outcome for him at this stage of his NFL career. What about adding a linebacker? Fansided, kind of piggybacking off a Bleacher Report article that said Matt Milano could be cut. I'll get to that in a minute. They said, well, maybe the Bengals go out and sign Milano in the hypothetical scenario in which he ends up being released. Here's what Alex K. of Bleacher Report wrote in favor of, from Bleacher Report, of the Bills cutting Milano. Milano's release would save Buffalo nearly $10 million this year, an appealing amount for a team that ranks in the bottom quarter of the league in cap space, with just a shade over $8 million available at this juncture. If Milano is released, plenty of teams in need of an elite linebacker should come calling. He's consistently rated among the NFL's best at his position in recent years, especially in coverage, and could bounce back to full strength after a serious injury. So I got two main notes here. Number one, why would you cut that player? That sounds like a really intriguing player to cut. Like, oh, he's a great football player. Half the league should have interest in him. Then why is he getting cut for a Bills team that didn't really play Dorian Williams very much and kind of like needs Matt Milano at linebacker? Like, they are a way better football team when he is out there. Also, if Milano's a starting caliber linebacker, how is he going to get on the field in Cincinnati? They have Logan Wilson. They have Jermaine Pratt. The whole purpose of having those two guys and paying those two guys is that when you're a nickel, 70 whatever percent of the time it ends up being these days, those are the two guys out there. So is this great elite linebacker going to come on in and be a backup, or are you going to bench one of those guys you're paying? I don't see how that makes any sense. So do the Bengals need another linebacker? Depth, let's say this, a starting caliber linebacker. Go ahead and vote for me in the comments section of today's show. Type in 1 for yes, they need to get another one, or type in 2 for no. Let's bring on Stone Shields now for some more discussion about the linebacker room in general. I think I had a very strong take there. How do you feel about the linebacking core overall in Cincinnati?
Yeah, it's interesting because, looking back at some of our previous shows, we spent a lot of time talking about the running back room and the cornerback room and how, the depth there might not be where we want it to be. And the more I think about the linebacker room, I sit there and say, you know what, we could use a couple extra guys in that room as well. You feel really good about the starters, right? Logan Wilson and Jermaine Pratt. Didn't have the best years last year, but fully expect both those guys to bounce back. Akeem Davis-Gaither, you know what he can do on the football field. But when you look beyond that, there's a lot of UDFAs kind of floating around in that room and kind of just battling for a roster spot. So getting another veteran in that room, I think, could be a good idea. Completely agree with you. I mean, Buffalo's crazy if they cut Milano, right? I mean, if he's out on the open market, heck yeah, I want Milano, but I don't really think that's realistic. But I think, getting someone by the time training camp starts or perhaps after, just before the regular season, just to add a little bit of depth in that room because, linebackers, they can, get beat up a lot out there on the football field. So it is interesting, and I do think they probably should add a little bit of depth at some point.
I agree with you on the Wilson Pratt kind of regression last year. Why do you think that was? They didn't play as well.
I don't know. I mean, got new contracts. Could that have anything to do with it? Probably not. But, I mean, that's a great question. I think with Wilson, what was so alarming about it is because, he was really good in coverage, and people always talk about, his ball skills and things of that nature. But, he got targeted a lot last year. So, for whatever reason, he regressed in that category. And Pratt, I mean, he looked a little slower out there. I hate to say, like, he lost a step maybe, but, that could potentially be concerning. But, I mean, those guys are leaders. They're, really good football players, and I expect them to get back to form. We've talked about at length, Logan Wilson potentially having, a big bounce back year for Cincinnati. And I've always said, how the Logan Wilson plays, that's kind of how the defense goes. So certainly be important for him to get back to that spot. But as to why they've regressed so much, I really don't have a great answer for you. But certainly hope that's corrected in 2024.
Can we just blame it on the safety play?
That could happen too. Yeah, I like that. I like that, honestly.
All right. You'll hear more from Stone throughout this season and off season. We're down a man producer-wise, and Stone knows how to produce, so we're kind of doing it this way instead. He'll be back as the full-time Bengals breakdown host all season long, especially when it comes to watch party season. So make sure you guys are subscribed so you don't miss out on that. Hit that sub button for more free Bengals YouTube videos. You'll see a lot of Stone, of course. He's the full-time Bengals breakdown host. Help us continue to grow so that Stone can feed his family. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/Bengals TV for more Bengals videos all off-season long. More for FanSided. They're trying to hype up Jermaine Burton as a possible offensive rookie of the year candidate. Somebody that could, he could win the award, be a surprise name there, have a great season, win it. Let's hear the pitch. It was from Michael Kasky-Blomane. Hope I pronounced that correctly, Michael, over at FanSided. He wrote, quote, "There's a vacancy at the third starting receiver spot following the departure of Tyler Boyd in free agency, and Burton could potentially lay claim to it with an excellent offseason. Even if he's not a starter right away, Burton should still see plenty of opportunity to make an impact. Lining up alongside Jamar Chase, he should help to open things up for Burton as a rookie, along with his speed and athleticism. He has the potential to put up serious numbers right from the jump." So here's my biggest question mark. What are serious numbers in terms of being a candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year? What is the level of production that you got to put up? Aren't you going to have to push for like 1,000 yards? Right? Like, aren't you going to have to put up elite numbers to beat out Marvin Harrison, who's going to push for 1,000 yards? Malik Neighbors? Like, I am very excited about Jermaine Burton. I think he does, whether it's week 1, week 7, week 10, whatever. I think he emerges pretty clearly as this team's number 3 wide receiver. They'll still use maybe Charlie Jones, Andre Yoshivas. So they have options at wide receiver. But there's only so many touches to go around to Burton when he's behind Chase Dickinson in the pecking order. So I am excited about what I think Jermaine Burton can offer the Cincinnati Bengals. There is not a chance in hell that he wins Offensive Rookie of the Year. The level of production he would have to put up for a third-round pick is basically unheard of. And it's not like it's a bad class of candidates, right? 5 of the first 6 picks were a quarterback or a wide receiver. It's Drake May. It's Caleb Williams. It's Jaden Daniels. It's Marvin Harrison. It's Malik Neighbors. All those guys are your favorites. So I'm down to be excited about Burton short term, long term. Let's not go crazy and say he's going to win offensive rookie of the year. That's not. If he puts up 500 yards, I think that is an awesome first season for him.